Nina Debugger very excitedly comes to the professor at a bug hunter, and she is very curious to know what is the difference between the server and server based application and serverless application. She wanted to know whether serverless means there is no server that we need, it's just the client that can run automatically. Professor Bug Hunter says, calm down, Nina. We will talk about it. We'll talk about what are the benefits of serverless application, when should we use serverless application when compared to the server based application, and when we switch to server based application. What are the pros, cons of all the server based applications? And if you also wanted to know about this, stay tuned with us. So, serverless. This word is misleading. It says there is no server. Your application generally has a client and some server. And this client can be anything. It can be web app, or it can be a mobile application, or any other interface which is operated through AI or audio, and it connects to your server. Server send the response, and this is how client server based application works. And when we say serverless, does it mean we don't need any server? This is incorrect. So first understand why we need server. Why can't everything can be done on the client side? There are many challenges like security. Security means all the code which is running on the client side might have uh, revealed some secrets, which is not good for your business. The second issue could be your server need to do a lot of compute application, a lot of higher application, and the client application is running on some machines which does not have a proper configurations or higher memory or compute. Then in that case those application will not work. So whenever you are thinking client server application, you want to offload all the processing to the server, and on the server you can allocate higher machines with higher resources like CPU or memory, right? Third benefit of creating client versus server architecture is if your client need to be installed, for example your mobile app, then in that case it need to be revamped again and again. You need to push some updates even if you make one line of code change. So in such cases server based application works better, client server based architecture, where you have the logic here and you can change, keep on changing your logic based on your convenience, and mobile apps need not to be updated again. So apart from this, there are many more benefits of client server architecture. It does not need to be installed, or all the updates need to be not need to be in the user's machine or devices. Now we have understood why we need client server architecture. Let's go what are the challenges when we have these servers. For example, you are a startup or just building some application as a student and want the people to use that application. So in such case, you will run some server, but all your clients or the users are very less. So they don't want to be connected all the time. But in the anticipation of any request which comes to your server, you need to keep your server running, right? Even if you are using some containerized techniques like Docker, these need to run on some machine, either your local computer, and you need to expose that server to the outside world, or if you are using cloud based architecture or cloud compute like AWS, GCP, Azure, then in that case you will use some of their services which will help you to host your server, which means if it is running all the time means higher cost, even though there is no requests which are coming, right? So in such cases, let's take one more case. When number of requests are increasing during the different period of the time, day, then in that case you need to scale up and sometimes scale down based on the load that you are getting from your clients. So in such cases, you need to maintain and handle that infrastructure of increasing the number of nodes and decreasing the number of nodes based on the load, which you can do generally with the Kubernetes and all. But still, you need to do it, right? And this is a lot of DevOps work. And if you are a very small team or a single engineer who is working on a project, then it will be very hard to manage all this. And here comes the advantage of serverless. First of all, let's demystify whether it's really need no server. This is incorrect. Servers are required, but they are not running 24/7. They will run whenever a request comes to you, or basically the server. This point is important, which means you don't have to worry about the cost. If in a single day you are getting 5 requests, then it will just start on those 5 instances, serve the request, return the output, and then close down. It doesn't need to be running all the day. This is a huge advantage in terms of the cost for a student who is just trying to build some application, or as a startup you just trying to serve few customer and trying to achieve your MVP. Now, so we have understood what is the meaning of serverless. Uh, it definitely needs server and it has some cost. It needs some compute and memory required as per the your logic, but it does not need to run all the 24/7. It can run only when the request comes. So this is why we are calling serverless. You don't have to dedicate a compute or a machine on which your server can run. Now, who provide the serverless environment? Like many cloud providers. AWS has in terms of Lambda functions. GCP has in terms of serverless functions. Similarly, Azure functions for Azure. And if you are using Vercel and the Next.js environment, they also have serverless functions. Supabase also provide compute for serverless functions. So any cloud provider which is supporting serverless functions, you can run your logic on those servers, and you don't have to manage, and you don't have to worry about when it is scaled, which is all good, right? But do you see this picture is so rosy? That's not the case. There are some benefits, then there are some negatives also for using serverless. So benefits we have talked. What are the benefits? You can run your code soon. You don't have to manage your infrastructure. So all the time which you need to spend on DevOps will go away. You just have to focus on your own logic, all the business logic that you want to write, and then it will be deployed on the cloud provider which is supporting cloud serverless functions, and then that logic will run and it will be triggered based on some events, and events could be your request. Basically you will have the payload which is required to serve the request as part of the event. Till here I guess all good. But what about the negatives? What are the negatives? First of all, negatives is, if your serverless functions is starting for the first time, then it will take some cold start time, which means there will be few milliseconds which will got waste to spawn your service server. Basically all the cloud provider, they don't have any dedicated running server for you because of the serverless environment. So what they will do, they will pick your code, and there can be different ways. There can be a docker images, or it can be just simple code you write on the editor, and that environment will be set up. And this, for the environment, like you might be using Python, you might be using Java or any other language, so that runtime environment is created and it is prepared so that the request of the user can be served. But this will happen for the first time. Consider right now there is no server or environment, runtime environment is present, and user fire one query or event. In this case, some time will be taken just to prepare that runtime of based on the language and technology that you are using. Once that server is ready to serve the request, the request will go to here. So your initial time just goes in, let's say this is the time, then initial time goes in preparing the request, and during this time your server is ready, so it will take some time for serving the request. Let's say 2 seconds is taken for just to prepare the runtime, and then 5 seconds taken for your processing, and then after your job is done or task or the request which comes to it, it is served, then it will wait for few milliseconds more and watch if there is any more request. If not, then it will down. So basically you will be charged for all this time, somewhat higher cost, but overall during the day if there is no load on your server, then it will be very minimal. And for the initial usage, I think most of the cloud providers have some free plans also. So you got the point. There is a cold start time which will increase the latency of your request. So it is good when we don't have to worry about this latency. You are testing your product or the use case also. Now what if there are two requests come simultaneously? In that case, two instances of such a runtime will be created and those will be served by each, and both will take their own cold start time. Some platform may have some configurations for enabling you to parallelize few of the things. For example, in one of the instance it can take 5 requests in parallel, like concurrency is 5. Then in such cases, till the 5 request comes, it will be handled by your first instance. In case 6 requests come, then it will be started with the second instance. Given all the 5 requests are active right now, it is running on this server or this instance, let's call it. So you got the one of the major negative point of the serverless applications. Now it depends if you want to optimize for that latency or it should be fine for the start. The second disadvantage is when we have the application and it is growing, during the start it is fine. When there is no load or very less load, you will save your money. But soon, when the load increases, right, load goes high, so many requests start coming to your server, then the cost of these serverless function is generally will become higher. It is due to this cold storage start and end, right. There are a lot of handling which these cloud providers do. So for each instance, it may be higher. But in case of if at during that time when the load is higher, you can set up your Kubernetes and run multiple nodes, and you will have your own logic of scaling. If there is higher loads, increase the number of nodes or pods. Basically, pods are these servers only. And in case the number of load goes down, and it can happen in a real environment during the, let's say, early morning time, load can be very less. During the peak hours, the load will increase, so you will need more instances of such your server. So in such cases, it will increase and automatically decrease, based on which you will optimize your own cost. So cost become more important, but it become relevant only when you have the higher number of requests which are coming and hitting your servers. So these are the two things which we generally say disadvantage of serverless functions. Otherwise, for a student who just wanted to try a few projects, serverless functions are good. Also, for a startup who doesn't want to invest time in the DevOps applications, that is fine. Then go for serverless function during the start. When you scale, you can move your logic in serverless in server based applications, though it will have its own cost of migrating all the logic, but it is worth in terms of the cost. Till you are not achieving your MVP or product market fit, it is worth to use serverless functions. Now Nina is very happy. She understood what are these serverless functions and when it should be used and what are the pros and cons, so she can evaluate which paths she should take. And Professor Bug Hunter is happy. Now her favorite student Nina is smiling, and she is curious and more energetic to build some application. Here Professor Bug Hunter also want to know what you are building. If you are evaluating whether you should go with server or serverless function, you have any doubt, let him know in the comment section and he is happy to answer all your questions. If you need any guidance, put your questions in the comment section. I think that will be easiest way to get that guidance. Thank you. With this, I'll take a leave. Bye bye.